you as a guy, there's probably 2 or 3 life stories that you have that are better than all the other stories. You probably have 2 or 3 questions or ideas that are better than all your other ideas. And so the philosophy was you should just figure out what those best stories and those best lines are, and then just use them on every single girl you meet, because that's your best material, right? Which is like, there's a certain logic behind that. The problem is it kind of turns you into a robot, and it turns your dating life into like this algorithmic, like, okay, she said response Y, deploy story C2.
But then also like, but then you're like using these crutches.
Flow chart, man.
Yeah, they have
You're
flow
using
charts.
these crutches, and you come across a girl that's maybe a little, I don't know, more sporadic, and she says something that throws you off, and you're like, and you can like,
Yes, so that was the problem. That was the problem with canned game. Though, is it only get you so far until you come up with a situation where you're like, I don't have a story for that.
Right, exactly.
And then you got to start over
crazy.
again.
You know about this, man.
This was me at like 15 years old. I had the canned game, and it was a few lines.
15 years old? How
15.
were you even?
Because
like,
at 15 in high school.
Were you using this at 15, or were you just like?
Try. The best you could do at 15
it didn't really work.
to try to score a date, which failed miserably.
Score a date.
Yeah, you're just trying to get a date. That's all it was. And I'd have the canned material, but none of it worked. I mean, some of it would get you so far.
Sure.
And that a lot of it was over like AOL Instant Messenger. It'd be like, you know, aiming back and forth, and you'd come up to a line. It only got so far.
What guys eventually realized is exactly what you just said, which is like, as soon as you run out of stories, you revert. You know, it's like Cinderella turning back into a pumpkin. It's like, as soon as you run out of stories, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm back to being that nerdy dweeb who has no confidence around girls. There was a second school of thought that started to emerge, which was known as natural game, which is ridiculous because it's just being a human being. But the idea behind natural game was like, okay, it's not about learning lines or stories or whatever. It's about developing a skill set, right? Developing social confidence, developing social awareness, developing a sense of humor. These things can be practiced, right? Like you can go take an improv comedy class and become a funnier person. You can join Toastmasters and develop more confident speaking and better body language and all these things. So the idea was like, work on the fundamental skills and principles within yourself, and then that will just kind of naturally translate into greater success dating, which is fundamentally true. So I was a natural game guy. Like I had probably a similar experience to Grant and a lot of people, which is I read the game. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this works. I went to a bar, tried a bunch of lines, and the girls just kind of looked at me like I had 4 heads. And I was like, I think I did better when I was just normal. So I like went back to normal and then just started working from there. I was like, why don't we start at normal, because I'm already good at some things, and then just work at the things I'm not good at, right? Which is just logical.
The hardest part, and I'm probably speaking for a lot of the audience as well, is the fear of rejection, right?
For sure.
How did you overcome that fear of rejection, or were you still scared of it, but you were just managing it?
You know what? And by the way, when it comes to rejection, I think it's more so embarrassment. That was what it was for me, is getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's not the rejection itself. It's like, am I going to look like an idiot?
Yeah. I think, so there's kind of two takes. One is a certain percentage of it is just simply desensitization. Like the way you realize rejection doesn't matter is you get rejected enough times and you're like, oh, this doesn't matter. So that's part of it. That's the answer nobody likes hearing, but it's the truth. But another huge part of it, and I talk about this, so I did end up writing a dating book called Models Attract Women Through Honesty. And this was a huge chunk of that book, which is most men particularly men who struggle with dating, they approach dating as though it's a performance, right? Like, okay, you got this hot girl to go out with you. Now you got to say the right things. You got to do the right things. You got to make her laugh at the right jokes. And if you do that, then you get to win. You get to kiss her or hook up with her or whatever. And like, it's like they approach it like they're approaching a level in a video game. It's like, oh, clear all the obstacles and then, you win the princess at the end. And that's a terrible, if you actually look at how human interaction works, that's a terrible way to approach any relationship in life. Like the idea that you need to perform to make somebody else like you, it's going to, even if you succeed, you're going to be dissatisfied with that success because it's not your actual self that they're liking. It's the performance that they're liking. So a much healthier way of looking at dating is that here's who I am. Here are the things that I care about that are important to me. Here's the lifestyle that I want for myself. Understanding that a vast majority of the women in the world are not going to be compatible with those values and that lifestyle that you want for yourself. But also understanding that a small percentage of women are going to be highly compatible with those values and that lifestyle that you want for yourself. And so your goal, therefore, is not to make every woman like you. It's to find that small percentage of women who are highly compatible with you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so once you like really integrate that into your head, rejection no longer becomes a bad thing. Rejection is simply part of that process of finding the compatible women. So it's women are actually doing you a favor if they reject you, especially if they reject you quickly, because they are saving you all of the time and energy that would have been wasted on a woman who is not compatible, who's not going to make you happy. Again, you can't just like read that and overnight feel it, but over enough time, you can reach that point where you do feel that way. And so you really, not only do you stop caring, but you're actually like completely comfortable with it. I got to the point where I would approach a woman at a party or a bar or whatever, talk to her for 5 minutes. And if she was not enthusiastically into me, I would say, nice to meet you, have a nice night. And I would like move on.
But what if she was extremely attractive?
10 minutes.
Yeah, try a couple more times.
Give it 10
Another
minutes.
5 minutes.
Give it 10 minutes. Well, then I got this story that I
Yeah.
practiced.
Right.
That's when the can game comes in.
Yeah.
But how do you differentiate between being okay with rejection, but also working on yourself to the point where maybe you're just not presenting yourself in the right way? Like, this person could be a great match.
Sure.
But if you don't convey yourself in a confident way, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot right from the very beginning.
It is true. It is true. And so that's the argument to work on yourself primarily, you know, to develop social skills and humor and all those things. Like those are very valuable things. And by the way, not just valuable in dating, valuable in everything, valuable in business, valuable with your family, your social relationships. So those are just very, very important skills to have regardless. But the answer to that question, and also the answer to yours, is guys get so caught up, especially like if you're in a room and there's a super hot girl in front of you and you get the chance to talk to her, there's something that happens to men's brains. They start acting like every other woman on earth died and this is like the last chance they're ever gonna have to procreate. And it's like, dude, there are fucking 4 billion women on this planet, hundreds of millions of highly attractive women just in, you know, this continent. There's no scarcity in terms of opportunities, chances, whatever. Like you're gonna meet another woman at some point. You're gonna meet another hot woman. You're gonna meet another woman that you vibe and gel with. The other thing that it's important having this perspective for too is that it's very real in dating that you meet the right person at the wrong time. Like you can meet somebody who's you're extremely compatible with, but they're moving across the country in 2 weeks, or they just got out of a relationship and you just got into a relationship. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens that's completely outside of your control that if you had just met 2 weeks prior or a year prior, you would probably have a great relationship and it would change both your lives, but you didn't. So you just kind of learn to let those go as well. Like, as they say, there's always more fish in the sea, which I hate that
Cliche,
saying.
but it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cliche for a
The
reason.
abundance mentality. Exactly.
It's cliche
Yes,
for a reason.
I love that. I love saying it's
Yeah.
cliche for a reason.